us are renovating and updating our homes, but what happens when you want to renovate and you're renting? Take a look at designer Sarah Gunn's solution.
When we moved into this rental just over 3 years ago, I loved how bright and airy it was because of all of the windows in the space. But the main floor didn't really reflect my style or function the way I wanted it to for my family. The kitchen before had really dark cabinets and a very dark granite countertop. And I wanted light and bright, so I actually went ahead and painted all of the wall cabinets in this beautiful crisp white, which I absolutely love. It transforms the space and makes it feel so much larger. I also wanted to go really light with the countertops, so I went with this beautiful quartz from Caesar stone that has just a light gray veining throughout it to give it a little bit of movement, and I paired it with a white sink because I wanted the island to feel seamless. I wanted the island to have a little bit of a special feeling to it though, so I actually gave it a beautiful shade of blue paint, which I think works so well in this room. This striped wallpaper adds a lot of personality to the space. When I designed it, I wanted to pull in the blue from the island into the rest of the room and add stripes which really reflect my love of coastal design. This is now my favorite corner of the kitchen. It's such a cozy spot and adds a ton of much needed storage. When we built this bench, we built it in a way that we can actually take it away with us when we move, which is a really great option for renters.
So gorgeous!
The dining room and living room are open to the kitchen, so I wanted the whole space to have a cohesive feel. I didn't change a ton in the dining room, to be honest, but I did bring this table and chairs in from our backyard over the winter, and I fell in love with them in this space so much that they're staying. I think the thing that I like the most is that opposed to the round table that used to be here, we can now sit our whole family to dinner together, which is really important to me. I also added a fresh coat of white paint and then finished it off with this gorgeous patterned rug under the table that adds a lot of style and hopefully will hide any stains. Our living room is pretty small, so I think a lot of people would expect us to go with a very small scale sofa, but I did exactly the opposite. This one is almost oversized, but it was really important to me that we had a sofa large enough for a bunch of people to snuggle up together, and it still looks really fantastic in this space. Another thing I wanted to add was a little bit of architectural interest because we have this really long wall spanning the dining room and the living room. So we actually built a faux fireplace, which I think adds a lot of beauty and style to this part of the room. Another important feature of this living room that I absolutely love is all of the storage. We actually lined the entire back wall with these cabinets and I painted them out in the same color as the island. They have so much storage in them, which is fantastic. And the really amazing thing about both the fireplace and these cabinets is that neither of them are built in, so we can bring them with us when we move. The one request that all the guys in the family had for the space was a giant TV, and they got their wish. But I didn't want it to distract from the beauty of this room, so I added a gorgeous gallery wall of art all the way around it, and that way, we all win.
Sarah, okay, the whole place is gorgeous. The kitchen is gorgeous. How did you get the landlord to agree to everything? Because I think that's a lot of what renters think about.
Right.
Is it going to be okay if I make these fixes? Although as a landlord, you should make someone like Sarah Gunn do the fixes.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Well, I will say that he knew who I was before I moved in, and so he kind of let me know a little bit that I had not free reign, but some space to kind of design a little bit. Yeah. And you'd be surprised. I think people, when they're moving in a rental, they assume they can't make any changes and the landlord's going to be really strict. But honestly, I think a lot of them are open to it, especially if it's going to increase the property value. Now, obviously, like, we're in this place for a long time. I moved in there 4 years ago. We're all in there now. I plan on staying there until my youngest at least graduates high school. Yes. So I'm willing to make bigger changes. But there are still changes you can do if you're in a short-term rental as well, just to make it feel like home. Okay, so we're going to go through your list of what you went through when you started making the changes, starting with the lease. You have to read it really carefully and just see what rules are in there. Some landlords won't even let you put a nail in the wall to hang a piece of art. Got it. Some will say, sure, you can paint. I need approval first, and then you have to paint it back. So they're right? They can be really specific and really strict, but if you are there and you know some of the changes you want to make, talk to them before you sign the lease and see if you can have those added in there. Or let's say you're renewing your lease, you've lived there for a year, 2 years, you feel like you want to make some changes, add those in there at that time. Lovely. Okay, so always ask permission. You say always get it in writing. Get it in writing. You do not want a verbal agreement to make changes for the space, because then they could, let's say things go sour and they could potentially change their mind, and then expect you to pay to revert it to the way it was. So always get it in writing beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Permits.
Yeah, I don't think many people are going to do this, but if you're doing a renovation that requires a permit, you need to get those in advance too.
Did you need any permits
no,
for that?
not for this.
So that was all cosmetic, right?
That was exactly.
Okay.
But you do want to make sure, let's say you're changing lighting or something like that, if your insurance says that you need to have an electrician do that, you need to make sure you're using the pros or it could be voided, right? If something goes wrong. So that's important too.
Electrical you don't mess with, I say.
No.
Yeah, that's not something you mess with. Keep your landlord informed, like how much throughout the process?
I kind of touched base as changes were happening. When the cabinets went off to be sprayed, I kind of let him know when that was happening. And then at the end, he was so excited about it. He wanted to come in and you want them to inspect it too, to see the work, because you're going to be on the hook. If there's damages, usually that's the case.
Okay, good stuff. When pitching images, how should you do that for the landlord?
You know what, I just sent an email.
Or when pitching ideas.
Yeah, I sent an email with some inspiration photos of how I wanted the space to look, along with an exact list of the paint colors I was choosing.
Wow.
The Caesar stone countertop I was picking, the style of bench that I wanted to add to the end of the counter, all of those different things, so that he knew exactly what I had planned.
He was okay with a different countertop, huh?
Well, it's much nicer.
I know. I know.
It's spectacular.
It is, but that's good. That's pretty in-depth. I mean, obviously, you're a designer, so this is a lovely tenant to have in your space, right?
I think so.
You have the mood boards, the image boards, the vision boards, you've got it all.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the built-in look without actually having built-ins. How do you accomplish that?
Well, you know what? You measure it and to make sure that it fits the scale of the space, but you cheat it a little bit. So that bench looks like it's an addition to the existing cabinets and even that little shelf next to it, but they're just slid into the wall. So I removed the baseboard in behind it, so it's flush with everything else, but it's not attached to anything. So if we wanted to when we left, we could just take that with us when we go. Same thing with the fireplace. I just sliced the baseboard on either side. But I like it because you can move that around as well. So if I decide I want a fireplace in the dining room instead, you can swap it.
Okay, good. I think we put instructions for how to do your non-built-in built-ins on the website. That's cityline.tv. Sarah, thank you so much for these tips. They're so useful.